calm isn't the opposite of anxiety. Trust is.
I like that.
Yeah,
like that,
it's said much better, much more succinctly. But I think a lot of the work in building a relationship with your intuition, which I just mean learning all these different ways it comes in, and then trusting it. Hey, Angela.
Hey, Martha. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How is your inner world today?
Oh, what a great question. Well, we're coming off a holiday weekend. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about this morning when I got up. My inner world was kind of swirly. Had some family time over the weekend, and some lightness and some heaviness. And so I just sort of woke up in a bit of a swirl. And so I decided what I needed to do was move my body a little bit, because for me, the swirl, like I get all in my head and I am thinking a lot of thoughts. And I know when I'm in that part of my brain, I'm not connected to my intuition. So I was doing all sorts of things to try to shift gears. So I moved my body a little bit and walked the dog and went for a swim and then came back. And finally what dialed me in was I sat down and I pulled a card. I was like, okay, I can't get out of my head. I'm not getting out of my way. And I pulled in this case, the tarot card, just to say, okay, what do I need to focus on? And it just went whoosh. And I was right where I needed to be, because I got guidance. I got a hit. I heard something for me that my mind was too busy to connect to. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of settled me in, which felt really good.
Oh,
how about you?
I love that. It's so funny. I went to pull a card right before we got on to record this, and then I realized we didn't have time, but I think I was in a similar space. But I am similar to you in that moving my body. My whole family, it always jokes about if it's less than, 10 miles, I'll walk there. So I'm a walker. And I definitely do that to connect to my intuition, to my spirit guides, to my inner knowing, and to clear out all that clutter, right? That can get, and like you described it, like a swirling sensation. That's so great. Yes. Yeah. And I get outside. I was telling you, I walk out into the sunshine. So this morning I did a little bit of movement. And if I can't do like an exercise, if I don't have time for exercise movement, do you know about the shaking practice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been reading more and more about that. In my therapy practice, I'll have people shake.
Yes.
Shake like a dog almost. And I'll do it with them so we don't feel silly.
Yes.
But yeah, it's very powerful. Say more about how you do it.
Isn't it neat?
Yeah.
I went to a whole conference on it when I was in my 20s. And, but yes, just yesterday. Exactly. One way that you can do it or suggested for clients or for yourself is if you don't want to do something you feel sort of self-conscious, you can shake your arm. Just shake one arm, right? And you can do that for 20 seconds. Yep. You can shake your other arm. You can shake one leg. Sometimes I'll have clients and stand and put their hands on the wall and they'll shake a leg, right? And just that, I can already feel the energy shift. So really just get moving, right? Moving things out, and then allowing space for the intuition to drop in. So I love that. We both drop in through movement and outside. I know you're an outside walker too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hence your Camino walk, which we'll talk about in one of these episodes. Yeah. Yes. All right.
So what are we talking about today?
Woo! This week, episode number 2, we are...
Look out.
That's right. We are going to... Yeah, it's exciting. We are going to talk about all the ways you can receive intuition. Now, there may be more, but we're going to highlight some of the main ones. And as we all know... people will often say, oh, I have a gut feeling, right? That's a really kind of a easy, I don't want to say masculine, but it's a very normalized, which is awesome, way of saying, I have a knowing and it's coming in through my gut, right? I was walking the other day by a business building and there was a man in a suit, very professional looking, and he was on the phone. And I heard him say, my gut is telling me blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. This business guy's having a business conversation. And he's saying, he's bringing into this business conversation that his gut is telling him that he has a knowing. And I loved that.
Yes.
So I think most people are in touch with that way of being able to articulate or look for in their bodies that type of knowing. But today we'll talk about other ways that maybe we can begin to tune in to these other subtle ways that we receive intuitive information. Yeah.
Love it. Very good, because there's lots of ways. So Martha, I know for you, you've had lots of different, really great stories about how your intuition plays out for you. So give me some examples, or tell me about other ways that your intuition has shown up for you, in addition to that gut feeling.
Yes, I love that. So last week in our first episode, I shared a story about being in the driveway and a car pulling up, and me knowing it was like I heard this huge no with like 10 exclamation points, like, do not get in the car. Of course, I tell the story, I get in the car. And then there's a consequence that's not super fun for me. But I have a really great story that I talk about. So 4 years ago, our family moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico from Chicago. And it appeared as if it came out of the blue, and it did. It did come out of the blue, because I had been to Santa Fe one time years before. It was not on our radar at all. And we were looking for, during the pandemic and even before, my husband and I were looking for a place that would have more sunshine, would have more of an outdoor lifestyle. We love to hike, we love to be outside, let the dogs run, that sort of thing. But we had looked on the East Coast, where a lot of our family lives. We had looked in, the North Carolina area where other family lives. We had looked on the West Coast. We had looked in Denver. We had looked in different places of Colorado. And we looked in California, and nothing felt right. So the kids were all kind of on pins and needles waiting to hope to stay in Chicago. So we announced, we're staying. We decided there's no place that feels better to us than here. So yay, I order a blow-up stand-up paddleboard for Lake Michigan. I'm going to make the best of this, right? I got some toys for the winter in Chicago that it was going to be great. We were going to be here. Well, I come out to Santa Fe to visit a friend, no intention of looking. And I come out to Santa Fe, and it's in March, and I'm hiking up a trail, and the sun is so warm that it's heating the pine and the pinon trees. And I get a whiff of this smell of the pine and the pinon. And I had a all body download, like this download that just literally came in. And I said out loud, basically to myself, I said, oh, shoot, it's the censored version. I am going to have to uproot my whole family. And my kids are going to be so pissed because I just told them we weren't moving. But I was like, this is it. It was like a soul knowing for me, like a deep soul knowing. And I would tell you, Angela, within 6 weeks, we had put our beautiful old Victorian home 2 blocks from Lake Michigan on the market. We had sold it over asking. Everything, the universe just lined it all up. So that was another way for me. That was a little different than the no I heard when I was standing in the driveway. This was like a cellular knowing for me. It was just a body knowing. And what I love to say about this story, when I tell this story, Angela, is that I will tell you, on the surface, I was scared, I was anxious, I was fearful to tell the kids. And when I told the kids, they were angry, they were mad, it was horrible. But I will tell you, so on the surface, we're packing and there's so much work, and it was really upsetting to everyone. But I'll tell you, I could close my eyes and I could go into that deep part of myself, and I could feel that it was right. So I want to say to people, intuition isn't always easy, but if you can learn to tap into that deeper sense of knowing within yourself, you can still, the surface may be upsetting, it may be anxious, it may be frustrating, it may be all these emotions, but there's this deeper knowing that you can really hold on to during those times. So that's for me. I would say that's one of my stories about really explaining about one of the other ways that I receive intuition. It's a full body knowing.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, first I want to say I love that you were able to say that there's a difference between what's happening on the surface of the water, because I think that's exactly right. That there are still, we talked last week about the intuitive part of us isn't the emotion, right? It's not, there's not a valance on it. It's not scared, but that doesn't mean there aren't emotions that go along with the context of whatever's happening. So I love what you said, that yes, I still had these emotions that were like waves on the water, but when I was able to dive deeper, there was still that anchored knowing. And that so fits the story that I was thinking about, which is has to do with the office that I'm in right now. So I don't know if I told you the story or not, but I had been renting from somebody else, a therapy office, and I'd done that for a couple of years. And then sort of suddenly the situation changed and I needed to find a new office. And so on the surface, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got to figure this out. And do you see how fast I'm talking? Because that's how my brain goes when I get, how am I going to do this? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then for me, there was a lot of ease. And what I mean by that, even though there was all this stuff going on the top, it turns out that when I paid attention, the building that I was already renting in had a whole suite of offices for lease. And kind of like with the story I told last time with the job in Florida, I was like, oh, heck no. That was my first response. I don't need a whole suite of offices, right? Like, no. So then freak out. Calmed. It was like, call. There was this call and find out, right? So long story short, the Zoom, it came in. If you can't see my hands, I'm like, there's whole alignment thing happened in my body. I made the call to the leasing people, and we had a lovely conversation. And after that, even though I had parts that were still a little concerned, it really slotted right into flow. Like the next right thing happened, and the next right thing happened, and the next right thing happened. Like all of a sudden, the lease was available when I needed it. I was able to secure, I didn't even give two thoughts about it, a bank loan for a bunch of money to build out the space into therapy offices, which, means insulation and walls and, things like that. And then I wasn't even thinking about how am I going to pay the lease. There are 7 offices in this suite, and it was me. And something like I just wasn't even, it was just like, nope, this is right. It's going to work. And I couldn't get out of the groove of the flow. Like I couldn't I just didn't, not I couldn't, I didn't let myself freak out about worrying about the other things. It just fell into place. And I'm not even kidding. And that's part of how I knew it was guided, intuitive flow, because it wasn't easy, but there was ease. Like every time I needed something, the perfect contractor appeared. Right. When I was like, okay, I need renters, like 4 people showed up. And then after that, some more people showed up. And I didn't have to do like a big advertising blitz. I didn't have to do anything. It just fell into place. And that I keep coming back to that is if I get out of the way and listen and flow, and just take the next right thing, that for me is another way I experience intuition, is when I really get into that space.
I love that. There was a sentence there that you said, I can't remember it, but it was so poignant. It was great. It was something about ease. But what I want to say,
easy doesn't mean ease.
Easy doesn't mean ease. That was perfect. I love that. And you know what I want to highlight about your story and my story and most intuitive stories is underneath all of that is trust.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I've recently come across this quote. It's now on my website that calm isn't the opposite of anxiety. Trust is.
I like that.
Yeah. It's said much better, much more succinctly, but I think a lot of the work in building a relationship with your intuition, which I just mean learning all these different ways it comes in and then trusting it. So you were calling it flow, same thing, trust. I'm going to recognize how it comes in. I'm going to learn the different ways that I receive it, right? Because all of us will receive it more than one way. There may be one primary way, but there's other ways. And then I'm going to trust it. You trusted it with your office. You trusted it with your job, right? I trusted it with my
Absolutely.
move.
Exactly.
I've trusted it, right, with a lot of
Yeah.
things, even though I love that we're identifying the surface may have a lot of dis-ease.
Yes.
And underneath, though, we can tap into that trust that we know, that knowing, that inner knowing that really, when you can when you can tap into that level of deep trust with your intuition, that's the game changer there. And then things align like you just described. The build out, the loan, all of it just sort of flows.
Well, and I think a really important thing for our listeners to remember is often, and you and I have great examples of this, you learn what your intuition is by not following it.
Yes.
So you're like, oh yeah, I really should have listened. So I don't want to give the impression that it's like, oh yes, I just always always do what the hit is, because I don't. But that's how I learn. Kind of have to learn the hard way because I'm stubborn like that. Like if it's just much easier to go downstream with the flow than to continue paddling my own canoe the other direction.
Oh my gosh.
But sometimes I forget, and I have to make it harder than it needs to be.
Totally. And you know why we forget? Why we forget is because we live in a world that really, really emphasizes and values the left brain, which is the intellect, right?
I think that's right.
So when we filter our experiences through our intellect, it makes it much trickier to tap into the knowing, which is what we are talking about, the art and science of knowing. But a lot of the knowing is simply just knowing without explanation. One of my favorite quotes is, I don't need to explain my vibes, right? I have my vibes. I trust them, and I'm going to take action to honor them.
Right. And I don't feel the need to explain them to you.
Yeah.
If you don't get them, okay, don't.
Okay.
That's
right.
Yeah.
There's so much freedom when we can really get to that place is, whoa, this is just something I'm going to trust. I love that. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So what are some other ways, Angela, that folks may want to tune in about how they might receive intuition?
Well, I know we're going to talk about a bunch of different ways, but one of the things that is an ongoing practice, part of me wants to say struggle, remembering, I don't know what the right word is, intuition, or that kind of knowing that we're talking about, to me is coming in on a different station, like a different radio station, a different channel than our thinking mind. And I get myself in trouble with this all of the time because I have a lot of thinking parts that try to fake me out like their intuition. And I'm better and better at catching those. But what I run into is I have a lot of intellectualizing, analyzing, thinking parts because I'm a recovering academic, for crying out loud. and that is what our culture values. But they're also trying to be really helpful. So I have some intellectual parts that really are trying to help me find my intuition. And they're working really, really hard. And so it's this reminding them, oh, sweetie, we can't get there from here. Like your intention is great. You're trying harder. You're reading more books. You're seeking. You're doing all the things, but it's not in the doing. And so you're not doing it wrong. This just isn't yours to do. And when I can get to that place, which is kind of what happened this morning, then I drop into these other ways of knowing. But I think a lot of people have that experience and then they give up because if they're anything like me, it's like, oh, I'm doing it wrong, or I'm the only person in the world this doesn't work for. I'm so uniquely, broken, messed up. It doesn't work for me. But it actually does if you're listening to the right frequency. And then that's the art, right, that we're going to talk about.
And I love that you just said that. I could literally feel my heart space open as you said, sweetie, because I too, you have books in your background, but I have a whole library of thousands. I'm a massive reader, as are you, of all things, for me, all things metaphysical. I will read absolutely everything. And I will find, I do keep track of when I'm buying more and more and more books and reading more and more and more. I'm often not as tapped in to my intuition than when I'm just sort of trusting. I will also say for me, there's ways though that it's like there's periods of time where I accumulate information and then it's there for me to retrieve when I need it. And I appreciate that. So like you said, I love it. We go in these, for me, I go in these spaces of just like expansion, of really tapping into my creativity and my intuitive channel, freely and easily. And then maybe when it feels a little more locked down, maybe I'm more in my left brain, in my intuitive mind, I will read. I'm trying to be like what you just said. Oh, sweetie, it's okay. I love that. It was so compassionate. And I almost feel emotional when you say that, because I have a part of me too that I remember in my IFS, my internal family systems training, we had to figure out what are ways that we sort of, what do we go to when we're stuck, when we're caught, when we can't access our self energy, which is similar to our intuitive channel for me. Yeah. And mine was reading and learning. And so it's good for me to notice, yes, this is important. And now I have all this really great, I will forever be a big reader and learner and of all those things. I also have learned recently that when I do channel information for clients or for myself, I do use all of that information that is stored. It's like my guides, my spirit guides access the information that's in my left brain. So it's really cool how our right brain, our left brain, our however you want to call guides, whether it's just your intuitive channel, your spirit guides, whatever. We all will talk about it in different language. But for me, I am learning. I can pack it in and then it will be used later, but sometimes, So anyway, I love.
Well, and I think just briefly to tack on to that, this idea of you'll find for you, right? All of our listeners, you'll find your own way. Like for me, I know when I'm swirling, I need to move my body. And then in those swirly moments, when I read, that helps me reading something inspirational, right? That will sort of drop me in versus when I'm reading because I think there's something wrong or I'm right. So none of these are all good or all bad or any of that. That's right. It's just, can you be connected enough to yourself to know what you're using, whatever you're using for.
Oh, right? Thank you for exactly. Let's be conscious. I always say to clients, let's just be conscious about where it's coming from.
That's right. I love
There's no good or bad, right? I love that you said that. I love that.
So what are some of the other ways you could get connected? We've been talking about kind of gut knowing, but I know there's lots of other ways. What do you want to say about that? What are some other ways we can hear our intuition and connect?
Yes. So what I described in my Santa Fe knowing story was a full body knowing. So it can come in through physical sensations. Right. It can come in through thoughts like I heard a big no, the story I told last week, or on the trail, I got it was literally this full body knowing. It was like my soul was saying to me very quietly, here's where you belong next. And so that was just a physical body knowing I got. Angela, something that a lot of people study, but it doesn't need to be studied, is dreams. We get a lot of information, intuitive information through our dreams.
Yeah. Say more about how that might show up and like, how would you know it was intuition versus, like.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a dream expert. I've studied it a little tiny bit, but for me, the way that I know is, does it resonate in a way that feels, important and So I think people will get to know me as we go over time. It's just like whenever something comes in for me, I'm like, how does this feel? Like because I explained in the first episode, I have a really good understanding and a sense of who I am at a core level, and what it like sensory even, like not just I am Martha from Michigan originally. No, not that, but like, I have this sensory feeling of me. And so when information comes in through dreams, I'm sure you have better explanations for maybe how we can begin to recognize that. But for me, I always sort of hold it up to the light of my inner knowing. And then I can tell if was it just sort of my subconscious, like, practicing from the day? Was it releasing extra energy from the day? Or is this information that I need to move forward? I don't know. I just get a sense of it for me. How about you?
No, I like that a lot. I mean, we know from this, what we think we know from the science, right, is that we're really, our brain is trying to make sense of all the things that have happened. Like some people talk about dreams as sort of the defragging, like a computer software, like your brain is trying to clean it all up. But I do also believe that stuff we need to pay attention to comes up. And so I agree with what you're saying. And I love that, kind of sit with it, see what resonates. It's often metaphorical. It's not always literal, right? So if you are remembering your dreams, just take notice of that and play it out and just see if there might be information there. I think that's a good one. What other ways? Yeah, what other ways, Martha?
Yeah, so sometimes intuition can drop in as images.
Oh.
Right? So you might be out for a walk. Often people will say this, I love this. It's in the shower. It's in when they're driving, right? Yes. Often if you're in the shower and you're not listening to a podcast or there's no music might be okay. But when there's not a lot of external input, driving, when people don't have something on that they're listening to, these spaces where we're not inundated like we often are, these open spaces where we create or we're made to be in a space where the external input is less, people will get drop-ins of intuition. So whether it comes in through an image or whether it comes in through, what I love to pay attention to is songs. Let's say you do decide to turn on the radio and you're like, whoa, I was just thinking of that person and we danced to that song together, or I love to, if you pull up to a car and there is a license plate that has "Be Happy," and you're like, please, before that, you're like, I just feel like crap or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, to begin to look around for signs. Yes. So for me, I still call that intuition. I also play with spirit guides a lot, and I will ask for kind of fun things like that to drop in for me throughout the day. And I know you have a way to explain that in brain science, right? Then your brain will start to look for, this is like a little bit of NLP too, right? Like if I'm like, okay, I'm grateful this morning, and then your brain will help you find things that you're grateful for.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. I love, just to clarify, when you said images, I love, it could be that you're using your imagination, but the other one is you actually see images that jar something.
Yes.
So we're being very literal in this instance when we say images.
Yes.
It might be something, license plate, side of a bus, something that really grabs your attention. And this is part of what we were talking about. The science of it is what we were talking about last week for the homework. Be an intuitive for a day, because if you expect to see something, then your brain is primed to look for it.
Yes.
Right? We have that part of our brain, the reticular activating system, that's a filter, because we can't take in all of the data that's being thrown at us every day. So our brain prioritizes based on past experiences and based on what we're looking for, right? So if I decide I'm going to buy a new blue car, suddenly there's 1,000 blue cars on the road. Well, no, there were always that many blue cars on the road. I'm just now paying attention to them. So what you're saying, front loading, like expecting to see something, then you're primed and you actually look for it. So images, great.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I love it. License plates, songs, all of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Very
and
cool.
It makes life more fun too.
It does.
I've shared that with you. I spend a good portion of my life trying to feel or trying to keep my frequency, my vibrational frequency high. And I do that through being inspired, whether it's music or flowers on my table or sunshine or trying to tune my brain into looking for things of beauty. I love to surround myself with beauty or beautiful bits of writing. Right? Or it's constant inspiration. I'm trying to connect, because the higher my vibration is, the more open my intuitive channel is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for me, that's a big way.
Yeah, that's the looking for the magic.
Yes.
The other thing, just a quick note about why does this stuff drop in the shower and when you're driving? Part of it is because part of your brain is already occupied. Right? I'm driving the car. So there's a chunk of my brain that is working. And so when it's working over here, something can sneak in the other side and get my attention.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing when I'm not thinking about it, because I'm focused on something else, kind of mundane, repetitive, right? A procedural memory kind of movement or thing that we're doing. That frees up space. It frees up
How
space.
about Angela, how would you, I know with walking, I know it
Yeah.
decreases anxiety. I know it does all these things, but it's accessing the left and the right brain, right? It's crossing the midline, which I know a little bit about. But can you talk a little bit about that to the listeners?
Yeah. There's something about, we call it bilateral stimulation, right? It's, and to your point, it's activating the left brain and the right brain and sending a signal back and forth between the two. Because like when we get really ruminating or, anxious, we sort of get caught in a loop in the left side of our brain. We're thinking. And when we're able to move our body or have an image or a sensory experience, it shifts it back to the right side of our brain. And so when we can send the signal back and forth, which is what happens when you're walking, two things, your legs are moving, but notice when you're walking, your eyes are also going back and forth, sort of scanning where you're going. So our body is kind of automatically in this, doing this bilateral stimulation. And then what we're thinking about gets less stuck. Right? Because the signal's going back and forth. We're not stuck totally in left brain or right brain. There's a possibility for them to talk a little bit more.
I love how you described that. I love that. And I know you're trained in EMDR. I was years ago, had just a small training in it, and I've had it done to me to process some trauma, and it's a really powerful.
It's a very powerful tool.
Tool.
Yeah. So these are ways, kind of natural ways that we can access these different ways of knowing. Which I think is really cool. Another thing that I do, I don't know if you do this one, but sometimes I will tap into my intuition through writing, like automatic writing. I'll journal a lot, but it's either, okay, Spirit, what do you want me to know today? Tell me what I need to know. And then I just start writing. And it's really interesting because recently I've gone back to look at a journal that I started earlier this year, and I'm like, wow, did I write that? Like that was really good, or that was really because it didn't sound like me, like it was like this deeper way of knowing that was coming through my hand, right? When I got out of the way.
Yes.
So
I love that. And a little
journaling. Yeah.
I love that. I'm a big morning writer also. And I love that. And I have a little tweak on that exercise. What you can do is I often give this to clients is you can write the question you have that you want your intuition to answer with your dominant hand. And then you switch hands, the pen, because you want to not do this on a computer. You want to do it with a pen and paper. And then in your non-dominant hand, you write the answer that you're receiving.
I like that.
Write the question with your dominant hand. And that, again, accesses both sides of the brain, right? Like that is just the getting those little sides to chat to each other is such a powerful portal.
Absolutely.
Walking, changing hands, anything like, swimming, right hand, left hand, right? Like you did this morning, right? Like, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, really good. So are there others?
Yeah. I think that is
the big ones.
Those are the big ones. Yeah. So this week we want to give you all, we want to invite you to become an intuitive detective in your own life. So we really want to encourage you to notice the different ways that information comes to you. So that is our tool for the week for you, our exercise that we would like to offer you. Just start to pay attention. So if you normally say, you know what, I know I have a gut knowing, and I'm pretty clear with that, start to pay attention. How else might information be coming in for you? And then we would recommend that you jot it down in a journal. You know what I do, Angela, is I carry a little tiny notebook around in my bag. And a pen. I'll write that. I'll write down those intuitive hits that come in. I can tell they're a little different than a regular thought. And I by the end of the week, if you look, you're like, whoa, I really am receiving a lot of intuitive information that I probably wouldn't have given credit. Had I not written it down.
And back to you could put it on your phone too, but there is something mind-hand connection, brain-hand connection that when you're writing it, it's a little different. So even if you do have to capture it on your phone, go back and write it in a notebook, do that.
Yes.
the writing. The writing is really important.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And
That's
then
great.
the more you read it and see it, right, the more available you are for more.
That's
I like
right.
it.
For
I
more.
like
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that leads us to our question. I think you
Yes.
got the question this week, right?
I do have a question from
Okay.
one of our listeners.
Yeah.
And she says, hi, ladies. I hear what you're saying about intuition. And I often hear my intuition clearly, but sometimes I don't act on it. Is this going to mean that my intuition will leave me?
Oh my gosh. I
Well,
love that. Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
to the person
Will it
that
leave
wrote
me? Yeah.
wrote that. And I love that. I think it's a perfect question for this episode because earlier we talked about trust.
Yes.
And it's kind of like building trust in any aspect of your life, whether it's building trust in a relationship with a friend or a coworker or a partner. It's building trust within your own system. If when you say yes to your intuition, when you tune in so it's like I'll tune in, I'll hear what I believe is my intuition, and then I need to trust it and take action. Now, if I don't, which of course I don't a lot because I'm a human having a human experience, and often I will not listen to it. I think what it does, I think it just doesn't build my level of trust in my intuitive connection. I don't think it weakens it. It doesn't go away. No one leaves you. Your spirit guides don't step away. Nobody's there. Nobody punishes you. But I think you're building trust. And I do believe the more you build trust, the clearer your intuition gets, because the more you trust it, the more you take action. And then the clearer your knowing becomes.
I like
So
that. I
that's
agree.
how I would answer that. What would you say, Angela?
I would just add, you touched on it, but really it's not a test. It's not like, are you going to listen to me or not listen to me? And if you don't listen to me, then I'm leaving you. Like if you think about it as intuition is a channel, I love the metaphor of it's a radio station, right? That frequency is always on, even if your radio's not turned on, right? So you can miss it, you cannot hear it, you cannot follow it, but the channel, the frequency is still there. You can go right back, plug back in, and you're right back. There is no punishment because this is something that's on. It's just there. It just is. And to me, that's really relieving.
Yes, comforting. It's very comforting.
You can always begin again. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that question.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. That was great. All right. Well, thank you, Angela. I always love getting on with you, and hopefully we are, dropping some nuggets for people to learn how to reconnect with their intuition.
I think so. So everybody join us again next week.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.